What's up? Welcome to Spiguyver backpacking.
Who are you?
Dylan.
Hi, Dylan. So here we are. We drove up here tonight to the Palmetto State Hangars hang up here at Sesquicentennial State Park. Got the chameleon over here. Got Dylan and his hammock over here, and we've got a lot of room over here. Got a nice fire pit over here. Got a couple other setups going on. Cool starry night. Tarp over there that Dawn made up. So he's finally up and about. How you doing there, Dylan?
Good.
How'd you sleep?
Very good.
Very good? Yeah? Were you nice and toasty in there? So what do you think? You like doing this stuff? Yeah. Look at that haircut. That's a cool haircut. I turn the lights off. I don't think we need them anymore. What do you think? Alright, well, I'll make you some hot chocolate. You can go ahead and get up, okay? Alright, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So hey guys, I've got the tarps still strung up in the snakeskins. We slept out here last night. Got down into the 30s. Chris was telling us it got down to 34 last night. So I did pretty well with a 40-degree underquilt and a 50-degree top quilt in this chameleon with the top cover on it. So feeling pretty good about that. But really what I wanted to talk about today were these snakeskins over these tarps. So on this one, I've got the mesh hammock gear snakeskin on this Underground Quilts Sil Poly tarp, and then over here on my Hammock Gear Cuben Fiber tarp, I've got the Cuben Fiber snakeskin. So I think I want to go ahead and show you guys how these operate and how easy they are to take on and off. So right here we've got my Hammock Gear Cuben Fiber in the Cuben Fiber snakeskin. So I wanted to show how easy this is to open up. So you just undo the end, open it up, and then I just kind of grab it, start pulling it, come to the end, and then just slide it off. So once it's off, you know, you can deploy it pretty easily, get that thing out there, and then to put it back in, slide it back over, get to the end, make sure all the lines are in. Getting the lines in is probably the longest part. Cinch it back up, and it's good. Now, the one thing that I will say with this one, super lightweight, works really well. The only downside, like you saw on the Foothills Trail, is that it does trap the moisture inside. It doesn't have anywhere to go. Because this is completely waterproof, it doesn't absorb in there so that it could, you know, warm up and come out with the ends sealed. And it kind of sealed around the end down here as well. You know, it doesn't have anywhere for the moisture to go. So moisture ends up staying in there. So after the last trip, I had to set it up out in my backyard, let it dry out, put it on and off a couple of times to spread the moisture that was trapped in there out. But if you're going for a lightweight option, this is the lightest of the options out there. I'll go ahead and take the snakeskins off later on, weigh them so that you guys get a chance to see exactly what we've got for weights between this one and the mesh one that I'm going to show you next. So let's take a look at the mesh one, see how easy that one is. So here we have the mesh hammock gear snakeskin on my Underground Quilts Sil Poly. Again, it's got the same dimensions as the Cuben one. Opens up exactly the same on the end. And then again, I will get to the end of it and just pull it to pull it off. It It goes just as easily as the Cuben. This is a little bit bigger coverage tarp, but it actually rolls up quite a bit smaller because the Cuben fiber just doesn't compress and pack down the way that the sil poly does. And then putting it back on, just as easy. Grab it, walk it down, and it's back on. Now, like I showed on the Foothills Trail one, this one, because it's the mesh, does dry out a whole lot better. You don't have the problem with the water trapped inside like you do on the other. So if it was a choice between the two of them, very little weight penalty on the mesh, but it gives you a little bit of ability to let it dry out, and you're not packing up something that's wet every day. So cool. So I've seen different ways that people take down their tarps when they're snake skinned and how they store them. A lot of people put them in the outside pack, just kind of zigzagging in the outside mesh panel. I do it a little bit differently. So first we'll take it down. Both of these are on continuous ridge lines. This one happens to be the Dutch continuous ridge line. It's about 30 feet long. So I'll take down this side, just kind of walk it over, fold it in half, unclip this side. You'll see that, using these continuous ridge lines, real easy to set up, real easy to take down. Then I get them folded about in half, as you can see, and then I just do a nice tight roll. And what I found is even when it's wet, by doing it this way, any water that's in here does get pushed out. So quite a bit of water is coming out as I'm doing this when it's wet. Now, the Cuben fiber does not stuff down nearly as small as the sil poly, but doing it this way, it does still pack down pretty nice. And so this is the package that I end up with once I've got it packed up. So now I'm ready to go. And then when I get to camp at the end of the night or the end of the day, I just grab the two ends, unroll it just like I rolled it up, and string it up on the trees, ready to go. So let's take a look at how I do it, and then we'll compare the sizes of the sil poly and the mesh to the Cuben fiber. All right, so now we've got the underground quilts on the with the mesh snakeskin on it, and this one is on another continuous ridgeline, but this one is the underground quilts continuous ridgeline with the aliens, the loop aliens. So this one is also pretty easy to take down. So I've got that side down, walk over, and just pull this out, and now it's done. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Now the one thing that you do have to watch with this one, as opposed to the Cuben fiber, with the Cuben fiber being pretty slick, it doesn't grab any of the duff, any of the debris that's on the ground. This one will grab it a little bit, and so I just make sure that as I'm rolling it up, I'm feeling for anything that's there and wiping it off. It does take a little bit more time to roll this one up, but it does pack down a little bit smaller. The reason that it takes a little bit more time to roll up is that because it is slippery, it does try and slip out the sides a little bit. So there's the finished package. I'll grab the other one. And here you can see the difference in the sizes. So they pack down, both roll up pretty small. Sil poly definitely rolls up a little bit smaller, but you got to remember that this one does have doors as well, so it is a little bit of a bigger surface area there, but this one has more width than this one, so pretty comparable, and that's what you got. So I got the two taken off, both of the snake skins taken off of my tarps, slung out of the continuous ridge line so that I could put them both on the scale and determine which one is actually lighter. Very, very hard to tell by feeling them. By feel, they feel both extremely light. So let's figure this out. Let's see exactly which one is lighter. Okay, let's see how much they weigh. We'll start with the mesh the mesh snake screen first. So we'll set this on, make sure it's all on the plate. And we come down here and I see 21 grams. That's hard to see here in the light with it the way that it is. And then if we go to ounces, we've got 0.75 ounce. Okay, so we'll take this one off of here, take that one off, put it back to grams, and I will take the Cuben fiber and now set it on there. Interesting. Got 26 grams, and when I go to ounces I get 0.90 ounces. So in fact, the mesh is lighter than the Cuben fiber. Let's just put this back on there and make sure I didn't have it hanging off or anything that could have skewed that. Yeah, I am getting 0.75 ounces. I'm not sure that you guys can see that. Again, I'll go back to grams, and it just moved from 21. Yeah, it's sitting at 21 grams. So this one, the mesh is actually lighter than the Cuben fiber. Interesting. So I was wondering, maybe the reason that the Cuben fiber was heavier was that the Cuben fiber was longer. So here are the ends, both of the cinched ends, about at the same place. And I've got them both laid out, stretched, and we come to the end and they are just about the same length. If anything, the mesh is slightly longer than the Cuben fiber. So I've been using both of the snakeskins now for a little while. Both of them come from Hammock gear, and I will let you know that I was supplied the mesh snakeskin free of charge by Hammock gear so that I could do this comparison, so that I could take a look at the Cuben fiber, which I did purchase from them prior to my Adirondacks trip. And I've got to say, their customer service was awesome. I called them, I had ordered the tarp, I called them, said, hey, I think that I really want this snakeskin to go with the tarp for this trip. I'm leaving in a few days. Is it possible? Do you guys have them in stock? And Harry was very accommodating, told me they had the Cuben fiber in stock and they could have it out. I believe that same day I got a shipping confirmation. So they sent me this mesh one to take a look at, to do the comparison, because a lot of people were talking about with the Cuben, the water's going to get trapped in there and it's not going to be able to escape. But with the mesh, while it's in the back of your pack, the water would be able to evaporate out of there and it would dry. Now I will tell you, I think that logic is flawed. When you have it wrapped up or scrunched in somewhere, all of the inside fabric is still going to be wet. It's going to retain the water. It's not going to come out. Yes, as I roll them up, water comes out, but there's still going to be water in there. What this does do, though, is when you get it to the next camp and you set it up and it's a nice day or it's a windy day, it does dry out the tarp and it dries out the snakeskin. The downside to the Cuben fiber is that because it is waterproof, it retains the water inside. Even though it gets warm and you can feel the heat on the outside, it can't evaporate and go anywhere, so it stays inside, which does lend it to holding on to a little bit of moisture. Then comes the fact that we just weighed both of them, and it turns out the mesh is actually lighter than the Cuben fiber, being equal lengths, equal dimensions. I gotta say, given what I've seen, it's almost a no-brainer that the mesh is the better option of the two snakeskins. Does it mean I'm gonna pull this one off and buy another mesh one? You know, it's something I'm gonna think about. But for those of you out there that don't have a snakeskin, the single snakeskins by Hammock gear are the way to go. The double snakeskins just are a pain in the butt and you get a big bulge in the middle. Go with the single, easy to get on, easy to get off, as I've shown. And the mesh seems to be a winner, so I like it. Thanks Hammock gear for supplying this, for letting me do this test, and for showing you guys what your options are out there. Keep watching, I'll keep doing this. I'll see you guys down the trail. Thanks.